There's something about a movie that wears its influences on its sleeve. In the case of The End of Oak Street, it's like the film is wearing a whole jacket made out of those influences. Pants too. It's an influences suit, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But can director David Robert Mitchell's film have the same bite as the films which inspired it? I'm Clint Gage, and this is my review of The End of Oak Street.
What the hell's going on?
Get inside now!
I just heard a gunshot!
The End of Oak Street follows a family led by Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor as their neighborhood mysteriously teleports from an early 80s suburban landscape into the swampy age of dinosaurs, leaving them to fight for survival against a crew of dinos that look a little more like what passes for scientifically accurate these days. They've got feathers and fur and everything. It's really a blank canvas of a science fiction conceit. As specific as it may sound, family must survive dinosaurs can go like a million different ways. It's an engaging premise no matter what direction the filmmakers choose, but it's also one that's very familiar. Now, the dangers lurking in the swamp of a family-forward dinosaur adventure are the impossible to avoid comparisons to Jurassic Park. That's the bar The End of Oak Street, intentionally or not, fair or otherwise, has set for itself.
That is one big pile of shit.
So, how does a dinosaur movie set itself apart from such obvious influences? The answer for The End of Oak Street seems to be, don't bother. Instead, lean into them.
Gather supplies.
Grab anything you can use as a weapon.
First, I have to say this movie might have been created in a lab just for me. I'm an 80s kid, so the setting tugs on all the right heartstrings. I'm always here for a good, warm-hearted adventure yarn, an energy the trailer for this film has piles of. On top of that, I love indie movies, and David Robert Mitchell, whose It Follows is a creepy experiment in creating eeriness, is making his first film in 8 years, and bringing dinosaurs along for as Spielbergian a ride as any you've seen in recent memory. These are all good things. And The End of Oak Street mostly delivers on all the expectations I had for this movie. By the time the dinosaurs show up, the movie turns into a fun little creature feature pretty quickly. Now, the dinosaurs don't look quite the way we're used to seeing them on screen, which effectively modernizes them in a way Jurassic Park never really has. They can be scary and campy in equal measure. There's a sequence that includes a memorably goofy photo op followed immediately by a harrowing escape. It's a combination that really works when this movie is in its stride. But I say Oak Street mostly delivers because the film is walking a fine line where loving and effective homage is on the right side and I've just seen this before is on the left. It's those influences and those sleeves David Robert Mitchell is wearing them on. He clearly loves the adventure films of the 80s and 90s. You can even hear it in the score from the production logos on. This film would have been right at home 40 years ago, but the audience isn't mysteriously teleported to 40 years ago. And there are moments in this film that left me trying to outrun some outdated cheese. For example, the film can be incredibly sweet and earnest. There's an honest love for the setting, the 80s and suburbia, that's evident in every frame of this film's first act. But that sweetness borders on saccharine at times, feeling like an affectation that's not totally earned. In parts, it feels like it's a script being read to me, admittedly with a lot of heart, but there's still a stiffness to it nonetheless. Among all of that sticky sweetness, though, there are genuinely terrific moments, including one that I even found legitimately shocking. Were I a cooler person, I would describe my state in the aftermath of that scene as shook. But the key to all of the moments that worked is a decision David Robert Mitchell made clearly in the development of The End of Oak Street. That no matter how many feathered dinosaurs appear on screen, this movie is about the family. Putting that family dynamic front and center is a staple of all the Spielberg sci-fi Oak Street is borrowing from. Whether it's the harsh light and wind blowing through the curtains calling up Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or all the dinosaurs and their poop giving Jurassic Park in sometimes very literal one-to-one ways, family dynamics are always the more important thing happening on screen. And so, while this is a movie about a wormhole blipping an entire neighborhood into dino times, it's really about navigating difficult times in a marriage, and not only from the couple's perspective, but the children's as well.
You only go to church at Christmas and now you're telling the kids God's looking out for us?
What about the people who are out there getting eaten?
That a wonky science fiction trope leading to what could have easily been a spec script for Jurassic Park 8 that was rejected for being too weird is then turned into a capable metaphor for a crumbling marriage is no small task. While the writer-director deserves the prehistoric flowers for pulling that off, I do think the bulk of the credit goes to Anne Hathaway. She's having a pretty great year, and the end of Oak Street is coasting right along on that hot streak. As the mother of the pack, she's strong and fiercely protected, but also frayed at the edges in all the right ways. She's barely holding it together as the brutally realistic yin to Ewan McGregor's relentlessly positive, it's just all gonna be all right yang. She's grounded in a way that's crucial to pulling off the metaphorosaurus that David Robert Mitchell is aiming for.
Our house, our whole street has moved.
Another thing that can't be overlooked is the runtime. It's about 90 minutes, and I do love a tight 90-minute movie. And while this may be an unfair claim to make, I bet there's a 105-minute version of this movie that just does not work as well. An obvious thing that's missing from that runtime is an explanation.
Aliens.
Shut up, Dad.
And that is great. How the neighborhood actually transports somewhere else remains a mystery that the film never even thinks about unraveling. There's some vague talk with some sciencey words and a touch of exposition from a radio broadcast heard from off camera, but to incorporate more of an expertise or a character that could offer a definitive scientific explanation for the mysterious events would have been a film-destroying mistake. Keeping the film to 90 minutes avoids that urge to explain stuff that does not need explaining, or overcomplicating what is a straightforward survival tale to the detriment of what the movie is really about, which again, Anne Hathaway weathering a rough patch in what to everybody else appears to be the picture of happiness.
How the hell is that even possible?
The other thing I really like about this movie is the visual setup and payoff. One way David Robert Mitchell pulls this off is something my film nerd side is excited to talk about, which is the use of a split diopter lens. And to get technical for a moment, a split diopter is an arrangement of glass on the lens that allows for two focal lengths in the same shot so that subject in the very near foreground can be in focus, while the background is in focus as well. But it's not like everything is just in focus. There's also a visible line in the frame separating the two subjects, so the audience attention is drawn to both in a much more distinct way. Anyway, I love seeing split diopters because you don't accidentally use them, you know? They're representative of a clear choice being made. Sometimes there's just information on screen because we need to get from one scene to the next. But when you can tell a bag of tricks is being opened, I generally really appreciate the effort. So, where does a split diopter relate to the visual setups and payoffs in this movie? To me, it seems the moments where the focus is split are when a character is hiding something. There are some uncomfortably framed split focus shots we've seen in the trailers, which take place during a tense and important moment for the family. They happen in a few other places as well, where what's being discussed in the foreground isn't quite jiving with what's happening in the background. Also, pay attention to which moments are framed at a distance as well. Instead of just a standard two-shot, there are conversations we see through a window, or over a hedge, or in the reflection of a mirror. This is a movie that is undeniably thoughtful in its visuals. There's also some great eerie blocking at play that sets up the world our characters start in to juxtapose the world they find themselves in later. This is something that David Robert Mitchell did really well in It Follows, and he excels at it again here in The End of Oak Street. The movie's opening act is admittedly a little slow. In spite of the brisk 90-minute runtime, there's a methodical pace to that stretch of film leading up to the first dinosaurs showing up on screen. But what's happening in those lingering shots of a tree line, the edits that feel a bit too slow after a character leaves frame, they're all setups. Because later in the film, those tree lines that the film took great pains to establish as a safe part of 80s suburbia are no longer empty, but instead are hiding something dangerous. Those edits that take an extra beat after the kids exit the shot suddenly feel like maybe we're waiting to see something else show up. Now, the high watermark for this technique is a oneer in the middle of the movie. The family is running away from a T-Rex, and a chunk of this shot is seen in the trailer, and it starts with near misses and ends with, as Dr. Malcolm said in The Lost World,
But then later there's running and screaming.
It's a shot that's honestly reminiscent of the opening of It Follows, if you remember that, but it's a great little microcosm for what works about this movie. It's also, admittedly, a little hokey, making it a microcosm of all the things that don't work about this movie as well. But ultimately, the movie is like an old friend. There aren't a lot of surprises, but you still enjoy their company. Maybe you haven't seen each other in 8 years or so, but there doesn't need to be any explanation when you get back together. You know their secrets, warts and all, so maybe they don't impress you like they used to, but damn if it isn't nice to see them again anyway. In spite of being a little under the influence of nostalgic sci-fi adventure, David Robert Mitchell and Anne Hathaway in particular add enough plumage to the familiar so that The End of Oak Street finds a way. So, I'm giving The End of Oak Street a 7. A 7 means good here at IGN, and this is a good movie. It has some great moments, and I'm aware I used the word great 6 times in this review, but on the balance, this is a good movie. David Robert Mitchell's first feature film in 8 years is a rose-tinted romp through Spielberg's 80s, complete with dinosaurs, an incredible Anne Hathaway performance, and a visual flair to elevate it beyond just impersonation. While the influences are worn proudly, they veer into shtick occasionally, not enough to ruin the good time. That's what I thought of The End of Oak Street. Let me know if you're excited about it in the comments below. And for more movie reviews and more rambling 300-word monologues about split diopter lenses, I'm always on the lookout for those. So stay right here with IGN.